Hoarding in a half shell. Here's your look at the brand new Playmates Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Storage Shell Turtles. Not going to have these actually on the turntable this time around because I did actually want to show you guys the packaging of all of these before we actually get down to opening them up and looking at the turtles themselves. These are, of course, coming to us from the folks over at Playmates Toys, and a big thank you to the folks over at Playmates that did provide the samples we're about to have a look at. Truth be told, part of me doesn't even want to open these up because I like the look of the retro-style, retro-inspired packaging that Playmates packed the turtles inside of. We just happen to be looking at Donatello here, but when it comes to the packaging is pretty consistent with all one another. We, of course, have all the four turtles represented here, Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo here in the back. And looking at each individually of them, they are, of course, based on the original storage shell turtles, which I may have had a couple of them when I was first growing up collecting Ninja Turtles. Of course, they do all come included with their weapons, so those accessories will then fit into the shells themselves. We're going to, of course, have a look at those individually. Then here on the back, of course, I did want to show you guys the packaging itself. There is, if you are interested, a section to cut out a file card of each of the turtles and store them in your collection. Again, I'm inclined to almost pick up a second set of these because of how cool they look in their packaging. Part of me doesn't want to open them because I'm obviously wanting to keep the packaging intact and have them, in fact, hanging on the wall. But obviously, we're going to open them up in this review, and we're going to look at them all individually. And of course, it shows you how each of the turtles do have a storage space to store all the stuff that they come included with. Their regular turtle weapons, for example, like Donatello's staff, Leonardo's katana blades, and Mikey's nunchuck, and of course Raph's sai, will all be stored the same way on the back of the turtle's shells. But then each one of them, of course, open up like a fridge and can store all your leftovers inside of it. What we're going to do is I'm going to open up these and we're going to get a closer look at not only the actual individual turtles, but all the accessories that can be stored in their shells as well. Now that I've opened up the packaging for each of the individual turtles, we're going to look at them and look at the accessories that go along with them. I'm also going to grab the tape measure, and the turtles themselves are pretty much using the exact same body. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So I'm going to measure Leonardo and then just kind of keep that consistent across the board with the other three. Leonardo stands about 4¼ inches in height, or the figure is going to be about 10 centimeters tall. Realizing I probably should have measured the turtles first before I brought the accessories in, you can see that Playmates has really packed, I don't want to say up to the gills, but packed up to the shells, tons of accessories with each of the individual turtles. Of course, they still have their standard weapon of choice, but then they get all this other stuff packaged along with them as well. Picking up Leonardo for right now, I did want to show you guys Leonardo, and then I'll show you guys, well, you know what, let's pick up Donatello as well. Why I did say earlier that they seem to be sharing the same body, you can see, like, looking at them, the body proportions and the way that they've sculpted them look to be identical. One thing also that's carried over from each of the turtles as well is that each of their one foot is arched back. And that will cause, unfortunately, some problems when it comes to the turtles standing. If you did want to say, for example, bring their leg forward, then you're not going to be able to have them standing properly. There's going to be a little bit of a balancing issue. So you do want to bring the leg back on each of the turtles so that they are actually supporting against that back heel, and of course not going to fall over the process. Each of them are also colored like their original toy, so they're all going to be sharing the same colors of green. Leo's and Donnie's are pretty close in greens, but then of course Michelangelo and Raphael take a steer departure, and of course they're going to be more of the brighter greens that we're used to from the original toy line. Each of them also do have a brand new head sculpt that wasn't on the original Turtle Brothers, and I love the looks of all of the head sculpts here. The fact that they also take the time to sculpt and paint gums, I think, is a really nice touch on it. It's kind of like the original Turtles, a little more on steroids. One thing that's also very much different from the original Turtles as well, instead of having the black belt with, of course, their lettered L, for example, lettered, obviously the name of the character featured there on the front of the belt, it's actually done in the same coloring as their elbow pads, their knee pads, and of course their headbands as well. So if you've got Leonardo represented here with the L, Donatello with the D, Michael, yeah, okay, I don't have to tell you guys the rest of it. One thing also is also very now featured on these newer turtles is that the storage shell turtles had a compartment space located on the back of their bodies. When you open them up, like a mini fridge, you'd be able to store all the accessories that weren't already packaged or in the figure's hands, for example, or if you didn't, for example, like the katana blades, storing them on the back of Leonardo's shell, for example. Speaking of weapons, actually, one thing we can also talk about too, the articulation on the figures are all straight standard 5 points of articulation. So you can rotate, for example, Leonardo's head all the way around. His Arms will rotate all the way around. Technically, I suppose there's more than just the 5, as there's technically as well articulation in the elbows and articulation in the wrists. So that's a total of 9 points of articulation. And of course, you have straight swivels in the legs. That's all you're really going to be getting in these more shorter, squatter looking turtles, but still fun looking throwbacks to the original retro toy line. I still feel like I may have had Donatello that I got at a garage sale. Longtime viewers will probably recognize right away that stories I always seem to tell all date back to me going to garage sales. Whatever toys I didn't have myself as getting as gifts, I would seem to be lucky enough to go to local like rummage sales, garage sales. I was able to usually find a lot of these. So I think I might have had even Donatello and maybe even Raphael. I still wish I had those. Anyways, for the accessories, some of them are consistently the same. So like, for example, each of the turtles will come included with a pizza. But it seems to be more than just the pizza alone. Not only would you have to worry about the hot mozzarella burning the inside of your mouth, but it seems like the pizzas have been made on, looks like saw blades. So yeah, tread cautiously when it comes to eating this slice. It will be taken as slice, but not the kind of slice that you're thinking of. Each of the turtles will all come included with a pizza, and then they'll all come included with 2 pairs, I guess a single pair of 2, of little shurikens. And then, of course, all of them will have then unique accessories. And then, of course, they'll all come included with their standard turtle weapons. So, like, for example, Leonardo will come included with a pair of katanas. The katanas can fit into Leo's hand. And then you're simply just going to rinse and repeat that with all the other turtle figures and their weapons. So, for example, you can take Leo's and put the katanas in his hand if you have them displayed like that. Or, again, you can just take the katanas, provided I can get it back out of Leo's hand, and then just holster it, slide it through the back here, and then you can just have it displayed that way as well. The original accessories from the Playmates, well, the original 4 turtles, I think would have been more of a brown color. These are kind of more closer to, I would say, a caramel brown, but store the exact same way as the original toys. Again, you're just going to slide this into the front here. This one's a little harder, of course, because you have to kind of get this over top of the one katana, and then you have to slide it conveniently down, get it down on the other side there as well. This one's just, again, a little bit harder. The other turtles are fine. It just seems to be like Leo's is the hardest when it comes to holstering these. The material also that they've used for, well, not so much the belt, but at least the part that store the weapons seem to be more of a softer plastic. I don't know if you guys can gauge it based on that. But again, like everything else is going to be then stored inside the back of the turtle's body. So while Leo doesn't have let's not leave his shell open. Same rules applied as leaving a fridge open. And again, we're just going to get these guys to stand. It's just the back lower leg that you have to worry about. Back lower leg. The back leg is the only thing you really have to worry about with these turtles. There is technically a peg hole in the bottom of their feet. So if you did want to use yourself a display stand, you could certainly do that as well. For the accessories that come included with Leonardo, strange to see that he comes included with what seems to be an armadillo. It looks like an armadillo at least. All of the accessories, by the way, are all going to be molded in that same caramel brown color. Nice detail. There really isn't a lot of paint. They're all only more so just molded in this brown plastic. The exception to that rule, of course, would be Buzzsaw Pizza. That does have, again, a sticker applied to the front of it. Leo also does come included with a pair of brass knuckles. I guess they wouldn't be so much brass knuckles. They almost look like they would have been maybe wood knuckles, but they still have spikes on the ends of them either way. You could, I suppose, as well, take the brass knuckles, and then you can fit them into Leonardo's hands as well. So there's that option as well. If you didn't want to have them, of course, stored on the back of the shell, there really isn't a specific way to line everything up. The only thing that has a specific dedicated spot is you'll see that there's a peg on each. Well, you'll see it on Leo, and it'll be consistently then with the other turtles. There's a little peg here on the back that you can then take the shurikens, for example, and those will just then plug onto the back of it. So there's that one place that you can store them. And then everything else is just, again, rhyme or reason. You can kind of keep the armadillo kind of in the more straight center, and then kind of store everything then around it. I've been pretty successful, I would say, to get all the things on the back of the turtle shells. But again, it's just a matter of lining everything up. But that's basically the means to store everything in there. The only thing that won't store on the back of, well, inside at least of Leonardo's body is, of course, then the katana blades. And the katana blades, then you're only going to put them either in his hand, or then you're going to holster them on the back of the shell. On to then Donatello. I obviously have noticed the fact that Michelangelo has fallen over. Again, like some of these, I think Michelangelo might be the one that stands not the easiest. He's the one that actually falls over the most. Looking at Donatello, it's going to be exactly the same then as Leonardo, just the colors are going to be a little bit darker. I love, again, like the expressions that they put on these turtles are fantastic. I just love the fact of how bright the gums are and how white and vibrant the teeth are. Now, again, like when it comes to Donatello, we already know by now what weapons they wield. Donatello comes included with the bow staff. The bow staff is like all the weapons that they are carrying actually are fairly soft plastic. So you can notice that they're fairly gummy almost, in fact, when you are bending them around. Of course, like always with the original toy, you can either store the bow staff or hold the bow staff, I should say, in Donatello's hand. And again, he does have wrist articulation, so you can rotate that also as well. Or there is also the space dedicated on the back of his shell where you can holster that in as well. I'm not going to maybe put the bow staff in just yet. This, first of all, sliding out of his hand. I'm not going to put it in the back on the shelf first because I did want to also show you as well. They all open the exact same way. There's a little clasp right there, and that fits actually to snap everything in place. The shell never will open on you until, of course, you want to go in there, open it yourself. Tiny little turtle fridge. The accessories that come include Donatello, again, getting that close. The figure comes included, already then mentioned, he comes included with the staff. But then above that, he also comes with the buzzsaw blade pizza. Which again, like looking at all the pizzas, they're exactly the same. It looks to be using the exact same stickers for all the remaining three at least. Comes included as well with the same ninja stars, which again will be attached on the back. But then his unique accessories, I really like these. Comes with a little tiny tomahawk. It doesn't. I don't know if the tomahawk has gotten itself a little tiny boo-boo, as there's a bandit, it seems to be on there. But even though, again, there's like no paint on it, really fun little tiny accessories. I would never really be the one to pinpoint Donatello to be carrying around a tomahawk, but yet the figure comes included with it. He also comes included with looks to be a fish blade. Not a blade necessarily for cutting fish, but a fish blade literally made out of a fish. Just again, like the fun accessories that Playmates would have packed along with these original turtles back in the 80s, and then again with these new retro figures as well. And then Donatello also comes included with the slingshot. I would have honestly given the slingshot to Michelangelo. Again, whatever I'm saying right now, obviously it would be predating, obviously, the original turtle figures. But I still think I think Donatello doesn't fit really necessarily the idea of carrying around a slingshot. Maybe the newer Donatello, but not the brains behind, of course, the brawn, for example, the other turtles. I don't know if I would ever have really given him the slingshot. But there's still, again, the space to open up the back of the fridge. We're just going to open up. I don't have to make the noise while we're doing that. And let's just, again, get everything in there. Donatello's is a little harder to do because, again, like the slingshot's going to take up a lot of space. And then we're going to take the tomahawk. See if I can do this as well as I did this before. Get everything in there. The pizza might be the hardest thing to get in there. And then we can go ahead and take the shurikens, which, realizing now, I probably should have put them on first. Plug those in place. And at least those aren't going to be going anywhere. Let's see if we can close this up this time around. We succeed. We succeed. Although Donatello's doesn't close as well as maybe Leo's because he's got more stuff to store. Getting him to, again, stand. Moving then on to Michelangelo. Yeah, I don't know about Michelangelo. While he still retains all the same articulation, maybe it's just because this leg's a little on the tighter side. He seems to stand, at least balance a little bit worse. His colors are actually a very more darker green. And again, you've got the bright colors being represented here in orange. Gone away once again are the belt in black. Now we're treated to the same orange, or in this case, the same color, of course, as the elbow pads and the wrist pads. And of course, Raphael's will be all then red. There's still a section on the back that can then house his nunchuck. Now, the thing about the nunchuck, though, there's only 3 slots available. So you can attach, say, for example, one, but when you are folding it across, there isn't going to be then enough space to store the other one. There's, again, only an open area here. So I suppose what you could also do is take then one of the other accessories you come included with, and you can holster that, and then take one of the nunchuck and actually store it inside the shell. So there's that option as well. For me, when it comes to certainly displaying the turtles, I'm going to then take all of their, their traditional weapons and attach them into their hands. I noticed also when it came to Michelangelo's, his hand was a little harder to hold, the nunchuck. You may want to even heat the hands maybe in hot water. Getting, though, a closer look at Michelangelo, it's still it's very close to what we would have gotten with those, say, original 4 Turtle Brothers when the line first started. But again, it just takes a few little tweaks to make these guys stand out a little bit more. Again, I love the gums represented there on the side, in this case, of Michelangelo's mouth. Now, again, for his accessories, getting him hopefully to stand. Again, he's going to have a little more of a harder time. Maybe just lay him down for right now. We already looked at the fact that obviously the figure comes included with a pair of nunchuck. The figure also comes included with, I'm not even really sure what this is necessarily. For a second, I thought it may have been a hook. It comes with a hook with a tiny, very short length string knotted on the bottom of it. It almost kind of even looks like a pogo stick, but I almost feel as if it's more of a hook than anything else. The figure also comes included with a flashlight. Now, I personally would have swapped the flashlight with, say, the slingshot, and I would have given maybe the flashlight to Donatello. Again, if you have all obviously the 4 turtles by now, you can then easily just replace the ones that you want to use with the other turtles. Figure also comes included with, of course, the buzzsaw pizza, so that nothing is new in that department. And then, of course, the figure also comes included with the little tiny shurikens. To take those and store them on the back of Mikey's, well, back, open up once again the shell. We're going to go back to at least take the shurikens first and attach those then onto the pegs on the inside. And they do pretty good. I mean, they give you enough length of plastic for that peg that you can easily stack on top one another, the shurikens. Then go ahead and take, I like to put the hook or whatever this may be in first. Again, I feel like it's a hook. It kind of looks like a small little slingshot. Make sure while you're doing it as well, you're tucking in the string. Get the pizza then located on the side. The flashlight, get that in there as well. I think that's everything. Yeah, because again, like the nunchuck will fit on the outside. And then we'll just close it up. Michelangelo's closes a lot easier than Donatello's. And then finally, the last turtle. Yeah, I don't know. Michelangelo just doesn't seem to stand as well as the others. I had him standing fine before. Just lay him down for right now. And then finally, what I would maybe say is my favorite of the turtles. I love the look of Raphael's face here. I mean, taking it to the exaggerated lengths. I mean, you can see how much of a face sculpt with these big shiny teeth they've sculpted into his face. It kind of reminds me, I think, when Homer Simpson was being brainwashed and they took the sides of his face and they stretched it out and he looked over at the other guy and he says, "What are you smiling at?" That kind of looks a little bit what we're getting here. The heads, by the way, if anybody was wondering, isn't the soft, squishy variety. They're just as hard of a plastic. They feel a little more gummier, but they're just as dense of a plastic as what we get for the rest of the figure's bodies. Again, you've got the belt down below here that's going to be storing the sai. So the sais aren't going to be stored here on the back. But he does have, again, a compartment space where you then could take something else, for example, and store it in there instead. There really isn't something that, I mean, like looking at the accessories, the only thing I could really think that would fit the best on the back is the little boomerang. So again, you can take the little boomerang that we're about to have a look at. That's going to fit on the back of his figure's body. Again, you then take the size and those are going to fit to the front. Articulation is going to be exactly the same. So again, your head, your shoulders, elbows, wrists, and of course your legs. Raphael stands fine. Unlike, again, Michelangelo. Michelangelo just seems to be the one that falls over the most frequently. As for the figure's accessories that come included with Raphael, the figure comes included with fairly soft, very rubbery sort of size, but at least he gets 2 of them. And again, those would be then stored on the front of the figure's body, so we just can bring those arms. Now, again, also as well, you can easily attach them the inside of Raph's hand, so again, he can hold it that way. But we're going to go ahead for right now, and we're going to store the sai, just locate here in the front. I always had a problem when it came to storing even like the original Raph body, because the sais were always ones that get in the way. Unless I had them, for example, gripped in his hands, they would always be things that would get in the way because he would always have it holstered here in the front of his belt. Like, it's very hard, in fact, to kind of move his arms around. So maybe it's probably even a better idea just to leave him off for right now. For Raph's accessories, we're going to put the figure down here. Of course, all still the same stuff. You get the buzzsaw blade pizza. You get yourself, again, the 2 shurikens, the pair of shurikens. But in this case, you get, again, something that almost looked, well, in this case, it looked for a second like it was an axe. But I don't know if it's so much an axe, it's just like, I don't know if that's material, it's supposed to be wrapped around it. For a second, it sort of looks like material, but then when you look at it again, it kind of looks like it's the blade of an axe. But what it does look to be, at least, is it's a mace. It's sculpted, again, in that nice color of plastic that can then fit into his hands, or again, you can put it in the back of his shell. And then the figure also comes included with a ball and chain. What's neat about the ball and chain, though, I don't know if you can actually see it here, it kind of looks like there's a blowfish on the end of it. I don't know who's having a worse time, the fact that Raphael's got to be carrying this thing around, or the fact that this poor blowfish has been attached to a chain that he's carrying around by stick. Now, when it comes to storing those, and also one thing as well, the figure comes included with the boomerang, so of course that's going to be stored on here in the back. Once again, we can open it on the back of the shell here. I found I was able to fit everything except for really the ball and chain. The ball and chain is too tight of quarters. I mean, I obviously didn't want to bend this either and warp potentially the chain plastic. So it may be best just to kind of leave that one off, and then you can just store everything else that's in there. Not to include that, it seems like everything else can really fit on the back of Raphael's body. Even again, taking the shurikens and plugging those in place as well. There's the one, and we'll go ahead and do the other one. And that closes up pretty good. So there may be, of course, the opportunity, I suppose, to take the back ball and chain, And I guess that could fit on the back of his figure's body. This is kind of like one of those exceptions to the rule where this is probably going to be the hardest thing to try to fit inside the shell with, again, only just having the option maybe to bend the chain, but I don't want to break the weapon in the process. Again, overall, really fun looking figures. If I can hopefully get Michelangelo here to stand. Now, did you have these figures initially when you were growing up? I know, again, for me, there we go. Did I get him to stand? I think we're okay now. I did initially have these figures growing up when I was a kid, or at least I feel like I had two of the figures. Maybe it was Donatello, and maybe it might have been Raphael. Now that we finally got the chance, like they've done before, of course, with the original first wave of 4 Turtle Brothers, that Playmates Toys have now re-released, again, these storage shell turtles, which I think may be the first, possibly even the second time that they've actually re-released these figures. So if you didn't get the chance to have these as part of your original 80s Turtles lineup, great time to now go back to your local stores and find these on the shelves. Once again, a big thank you to the folks over at Playmates Toys that did provide this sample of the brand new Playmates Toys reissue Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles storage shells turtles. Let me know down below in the comments section if you had ever any of these when you were growing up first as a kid, or if you've been lucky enough to find these out in the wild now, and if you've picked them up for your own personal collection. Also, as well, if you guys enjoyed this video, want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and on board to see more, then make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and that you're also turning on the bell notification. There's going to be a lot more videos coming away, so as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time. One little thing I did want to tack on to the end of the video. I did say that all the turtles share the exact same bodies, and that's not 100% true. Donatello and Leonardo do share the same bodies, yes, but Michelangelo and Raphael, though, share the same lower legs. So when, for example, we looked at Leonardo, I did say, like, all of the Turtle Brothers would have had the tough time to stand because, again, they would have had the one arched foot. That rule only applies, for example, when it comes to Leonardo and Donatello. Their legs are going to be exactly the same. Michelangelo's, though, and Raphael are sharing, say, for example, flat feet. So you don't actually have to have the leg further back. And that might have been one of the reasons why I wasn't getting my Michelangelo stand properly all this time, because simply you just have the feet further forward. And both Michelangelo and Raphael share those same lower legs. So again, like when it comes to these figures, well, maybe perhaps the bodies and the arms are similar with all the four figures. The lower legs are different from another. Leonardo's and Donatello's sharing the same arched feet, and Michelangelo and Raphael sharing the same flat feet. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.